The Conservatives are demanding Canada formally declare China's treatment of its Uighur minority a genocide. They've introduced a motion that will be up for a vote on Monday.
I asked Prime Minister Trudeau, how much more evidence of atrocities do you need?
Yes, we understand that China is powerful, and so is Nazi Germany. But I'm only here today because Canadians were willing to stand up to a genocidal power that threatened my grandmother's life.
This government is very seized with the issue of the treatment of Uighurs and other minorities, and we are looking at this very carefully in concert with our international partners.
Some MPs from other parties have expressed support for the motion. The Bloc Québécois added an amendment calling on the IOC to move the 2022 Olympic Games out of Beijing. The Conservatives contend a genocide declaration is about showing leadership in the world, but what real impact would the change in language have? We'll bring in the primetime panel shortly to discuss the issue. First, though, does the Prime Minister have the support of his caucus on the matter? Wayne Easter is a Liberal MP and chair of the House of Commons Finance Committee. He's with us from Hunter River, PEI. Hi, Mr. Easter. Good to have you back on the program. Thanks for making the time.
Pleasure to be here.
I have some questions about the recommendation from the Finance Committee, but I just wanted to start off on the Conservative Opposition Day motion today around whether to declare what's happening against the Uyghurs in China genocide. Are you in favor of that motion? Will you vote in favor of that motion?
Well, we'll be having a further discussion in caucus about that. I watched the debate. And when Irwin Cotler is saying there's a serious problem with genocide here, I take a lot of merit in that. But we will be having the discussion in caucus for sure.
Will it be something that caucus has to vote unified on, or will you be able to vote the way you want on it?
I expect people will vote on their own conscience.
And so are you leaning one way or the other? If, as you mentioned, Mr. Cotler, we've interviewed him on the show, he does say it constitutes genocide. Is that your inclination at this point?
That's the way I'm leaning at the moment, yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about specifically what you told the Globe and Mail around the recommendation made where the Asian Infrastructure Bank is concerned, calling on Ottawa to pull out of it. You said it should serve as a wake up and smell the roses moment for Canada. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think it was a little more. The comment was a little more than just on the Asian Infrastructure Bank, and there is certainly mixed opinions on that. And we certainly believe, and we've heard evidence to that effect, that China is using that for geopolitical advantages around the world. The United States is not a part of the Asian Infrastructure Bank, but Australia, Germany, and other countries of our allies are. So the Finance Committee is certainly sending a message here that we have a lot of concerns about the Asian Infrastructure Bank. In terms of the comment, wake up and smell the roses, that more related to another conversation that we had, which was the NSERC getting involved with Huawei and the university to fund some artificial intelligence and other research projects. And look, our Five Eye partners are not dealing with Huawei. I do not believe we should be getting further involved with Huawei, and we have some serious decisions to make here because it relates to our national security, and it also relates to the confidence that our Five Eye partners can have in this country relative to national security issues. So that's what that comment related to.
So with all due respect to you and your party, I've been asking questions of the minister, and my colleagues have too, different iterations of the Minister of Public Safety about that decision where Huawei is concerned. And you know as well as I do, the government has shown no inclination to making a decision anytime soon on it. Is that a disappointment to you? Do you think that's a mistake?
No, I think I'm certainly not saying it's a mistake. Look, I'm in the governing party and the government side. Cabinet has an awful lot more complex, criteria of which to make this decision on, and they have to factor in all the areas of concern. The two Michaels that are in China, what's happening with Uighurs, our trading relationship. This is a very complex decision on the cabinet's part, And I do expect they are looking at this in a step-by-step fashion on how, number one, to protect the interests of the two Michaels in China in detention and get them home, among other factors that they may consider. But certainly, from my own point of view, I do not believe we should be involving ourselves more with Huawei.
Well, I guess that's the next question, because so fine, the decision's not being made. In the meantime, you're seeing stories like the one on NSERC embarking on this funding relationship with Huawei. Should there be a mechanism, or should there be something happening within the federal government to prevent furthering the relationship in the meantime before that decision is ultimately made?
Well, I believe the minister on this point said that NSERC is an arm's length agency, and I understand that to be true. But if you go to the mandate letter, the new mandate letter that the Prime Minister gave to Champagne, he is very clear in that mandate letter where he says we have to make the moves to protect our international property, and a couple of other points he makes in there. So he's laying it out to the ministers that we have to be very, very careful in moves related to intellectual property.
Do you have a sense that there is difficulty in, quote unquote, smelling the roses, as you put it?
Well, look. They've got a lot more complicated decision to make than I do in terms of cabinet, in terms of how you get the two Michaels home, looking at the trading relationship, all the other factors that are involved in a global relationship.
You're aware of that too. So, you know that stuff too.
I am, but I'm not in cabinet. It's an awful lot easier for me to speak out. But I think it's good that some of us do speak out. In that China should understand that there's a lot of Canadians concerned about the two Michaels, about what China is doing around the world. China has changed a lot since 2015 when we formed the government, and I think they should be aware. Many of us are concerned about the policies that China is pursuing at the moment, and they should understand that many of us, we may be in the back bench, but we also put pressure on our government in terms of the decisions that they have to make. And we know they're complicated ones.
And what about when it comes, for example, to one of those decisions, not that it's directly of the government, but they could have some sway, and that follows from whether or not Parliament determines, let's say through this motion, that genocide is taking place in China, and that is around the 2022 Olympics. Do you think that there should be a push to move them from Beijing?
I think that's the genocide. That was a motion that was added today. I would say this, that and we will talk about these issues in caucus on where we go on the motion. Although we will have, it's a free vote, we will have our own right to vote on our own conscience. But it would send quite a message to China if the world said that we do not want the Olympics in China.
Okay, Mr. Easter, I'll leave it there. Thank you for making the time. I appreciate it.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Well. I'm joined by Rob Oliphant. He's the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Michael Chong is the Conservatives' Foreign Affairs critic, and Jack Harris is the NDP's Foreign Affairs critic. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you very much for making the time tonight.
Good to see you.
Mr. Oliphant, will you be voting in favor of the Conservatives' motion?
Well, I think today was a very important day in the House of Commons, and I was incredibly impressed and moved by speeches from all the members who are making speeches today. I thought it was a very rich discussion, and it was not news to me. I mean, I had heard much of what was said before. I've heard it firsthand from Uighurs who live in my riding. I represent them in the House of Commons, and so this is something that is incredibly personal to me and incredibly important. And today was part of a good political debate about what is going on, possible genocide, genocidal activity, crimes against humanity. That is a very important thing. The other half of that is what the government will have to do. Parliament will have a political discussion. A government has to look at all the potential implications of what will happen if we declare that this is a genocide. And we are going through that right now. What is said in Parliament is being considered. It was thoughtful, it was good, and we added to the body of evidence which has been growing. For Mr. O'Toole to say that silence needs to be broken is ridiculous. We have been talking about this issue around the world with partners at the UN Human Rights Commission. We have been on this issue for several years. There's been no silence from this government. What it is careful, thoughtful discussion and trying to build a coalition of like-minded partners to really take this on to improve the lives of Uighur people.
Thank you for that, but that didn't answer the question. Are you going to vote in favor of the motion, you personally?
As I said, the debate was rich today. The vote is on Monday. I need to weigh all of that out. I need to look at what the government's responsibility is. As parliamentary secretary, I have a certain responsibility and role in the way the government shapes this, and I want to be part of that. So I'm talking to my colleagues, and I will be making a decision by Monday. I will be voting.
So that means that you haven't necessarily decided to align with the Prime Minister's comments over the past few days, which are that he's not ready to deem it genocide at this point.
The Prime Minister has been very cautious and careful in all his language. He recognizes that genocide is a loaded term. We will be following this very closely. I don't think there's any rule that has been said we're going to have to vote one way or the other. I don't know. There will be a caucus discussion. I believe Wayne Easter has been already just clipped there. And there will be caucus discussion. There'll be discussion with the appropriate ministers. And we look at the potential implications of what this means. And we'll make a good decision. I've been in opposition, and I've been on the government side. It's easy to be in opposition. Government has to take this very carefully because there are implications of everything we do. There are lives at stake. Our goal is to ensure that the human rights atrocities, the genocidal activities are absolutely stopped. That's our number one goal.
Okay, Mr. Chong, in that vein, on the idea of what would happen following such a declaration, do the Conservatives have a position on what actions should follow from that declaration of genocide? Should, for example, trade with China be limited?
Well, you're right, Vashi. Recognizing a genocide puts obligations on Canada under the Genocide Convention to both prevent the genocide from continuing and also to take action to punish those perpetrators of the genocide. Our view is that at minimum, we should be looking at a range of options, such as Magnitsky sanctions. We should be calling, the government of Canada should be formally requesting of the International Olympic Committee a relocation of next winter's Beijing Winter Olympics. We should be looking at economic sanctions. In short, what we should be doing is coming forward with a new framework on China that puts everything on the table and acknowledges the reality that China has been threatening our citizens, our interests, our companies, our farmers, and now our values in the conduct of this genocide.
Should trade, though, with China be limited as a consequence? I mean, should we be selling our lobsters to a country that we are willing to declare has committed genocide against its own population, parts of its own population?
Trade should absolutely be on the table. One example is that we should be taking a different approach to banning trade from Xinjiang. There is clear evidence that hundreds of thousands of Uighurs are being used as slaves in forced labor camps in order to produce products in Xinjiang. Solar panels, tomatoes, cotton, 20%, over 20% of the world's cotton comes from Xinjiang. And our belief is that the government needs to take a much stronger position on this. We think they should take a look at doing the opposite of what they did about a month ago, which is to put a blanket ban on the import of any products from that region of China, and instead putting the onus on companies to apply for an exemption to that ban based on evidence that slave labor is not being used in the production of these products.
Okay, I think what you're referring to is what was announced in concert with the UK about a month ago, in which there was limits on imports from companies using forced labor, or either partially or fully. And just so that our viewers understand what you're talking about, I'll get you in a sec. I just want to get your colleague, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harris, there are other instances where the House has declared that something constitutes genocide. In particular, I'm thinking of 2016 with regard to ISIS and the Yazidis, again in 2018 with the Rohingyas and Myanmar. I know your party has said that they're going to support this motion by the Conservatives, but those two declarations of genocide did follow a UN investigation. Might it be premature to make this declaration in the absence of an investigation like that one? like those? Pardon me.
Well, I think, the evidence, though, we're talking about several years now of reports and studies, all of which point in the very same direction. We had an Amnesty International appear. We had witnesses appear before the subcommittee. We had clear evidence that no other result could be found. The true full scope of the and the extent of it is not known. And yes, an investigation must follow, but I think it has to be called for what it is. It's clearly genocide, and it's something that we have to see follow up on. With Canada taking this position, hopefully other countries will as well, and the pressure has to be put on China. We want a change. We want that. We have, as Mr. Chong pointed out, an obligation when we see genocide to call it out and to try to prevent it from continuing. And obviously, we don't want to set an example for other countries where this can go on with impunity. We have other countries being invited to take the same action with their minorities in whatever way they see, if this can happen with impunity. So we have to call it out as for what it is, and we have to be strong on that.
I just have time for one quick comment from each of you. Mr. Oliphant, in the absence of making this declaration, what prevents your government from leveling sanctions or applying a blanket ban to the region through which all of these human rights atrocities are happening? Your government has said that you're concerned about infringements on human rights in China. Why not act now?
We have acted, and I was really glad that Michael raised those issues, because in January with the UK, because it's always better to do things in partnership with other countries, we leveled several extremely strong measures against companies that could profit from potential slave labor. We have been looking at this issue very strongly, not only looking, but acting. And so all along in these last 2 or 3 years, I think we're doing targeted measures as always. Canada has learned that sanctions that are blanketed are rarely effective and often hurt the wrong people. So we do targeted measures. Everything's on the table. We'll look at these measures, the ones that we've already announced with the UK. We'll bring other partners into the discussion, and we'll do it well and carefully. Our number one goal is the protection and preservation of the Uighur people. We will do that, and we will do it in concert with others, but we'll make sure we do it effectively. It's got to be more than rhetoric. It's got to be more than politics. It has to be about real, tangible work that we will do, and we'll do it well. The Prime Minister has been very clear about that. The Minister has been very clear about it. Our government will work on it. Mr.
Chong, could this be premature? Could what your party is asking for be premature without a UN investigation preceding it?
No, as Jack Harris has pointed out, there's plenty of evidence from reputable organizations. Countless reputable news organizations have recorded this genocide. There have been think tanks that have come to this conclusion. It's now the conclusion of 2 consecutive U.S. administrations. And the call for a UN investigation is simply a dead end. There is no way that the People's Republic of China is going to allow any independent UN investigation into Xinjiang. And so I think we have enough evidence to come to this determination. I think we should join with our U.S. ally in this regard, make a declaration of a genocide so that we can start taking action in concert with allies to prevent this from ever happening again.
Mr. Harris, final word to you. Yes, our allies in the U.S. have made this declaration. Other allies have hesitated as well. They want a UN investigation too. Will we still be almost going it alone by taking this step now?
I hope not. I mean, I think, a country with the reputation of Canada for support of international human rights, taking this step and saying this is what it is, and we cannot stand idly by. We want a full investigation, as I pointed out, because we don't know the full extent and the scope of this, but we know what it is. We're able to name it, and if it goes unnamed and if it goes unchecked, it can continue and also be a model for other countries to follow, and the leadership of China in this regard ought not to be followed.
Okay, I'm out of time. I have to leave it there. I want to thank all 3 of you for your time tonight. Thank you so much, Rob Oliphant, Michael Chong, and Jack Harris. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.